I found a place for my concrete fountain. I just need to buy a solar pump. So this is what we're working with. I dug a hole here in the shade garden. I put a 5-gallon bucket in there. So that'll be the reservoir. And then I'll fill this in around it. And then I have some leftover pond liner. So I'll put that around there. And I'll make sure there's an angle inwards so the water will direct that way. And then I'm going to use these 2x4s as a way to support the cement or the concrete fountain. We'll do something like that and it'll support the fountain. We have to make it level or even with each other. But in the meantime, I'm going to use this garbage can lid to keep this hole open. Like that. And I'll show you the fountain. I cut off the top there. I'll show you. I'm going to lift this up. There we go. There's the bottom that goes in there. So the pump tubing will hook up to that. The idea. But the pond liner will go under the 2x4s here. And then you can see it'll sit in there with the pump. It'll come up here, trickle down, and back in there. That'll be nice. And then remember to have this ugly side on the back. This is the pretty side. It's all filled in so that when the water hits, it's not gonna go under there. Put the liner in. doubled the liner. And we'll poke a hole in the center. Then we'll put the 2x4s in. I'm not gonna do a big hole, just enough. It would help if I had a sharp knife. Okay. On the 2x4. Level. Oh, it's actually level right there. Not so much. That's level. That's level. Level. That's a level. This one. Cut that a little bit. That's better. Just need enough for the tube. That's level. Level with here around the edge. And we'll fill this area with rock, decorative rock. We'll be done, except for the pump. Hi, Future Steven here. The video sort of cuts out because I was trying to hook up the fountain, but I don't have the right connections, and it's kind of impossible to figure out what I need. I went to Home Depot and I looked at all of their connections and everything for plumbing and for PVC, and I found some that are sort of gradiated, but I came back home and I tried it and it didn't work, so I'm gonna have to figure something else out. So the concrete fountain is gonna have to wait until next spring to really get it figured out. So this is sort of the end of this year's timeline for that fountain. I wanted to show you my my temporary winter enclosure for the fish, for the koi, and then the rosy minnows. So this water here filled up to the first tier. This water's been in here for almost 48 hours, and now I'm going to fill it up with some pond water. The pond is looking real nasty with algae, and then I'm guessing all of the fallen leaves are not doing anything good for the pond and the fish. So my hope is that I put in the air stone, which is also a filter, and then I am able to put the fish in here in the basement, and then work on cleaning out the bog filter, and then putting in that filter down here for the winter time. So this is the state of the pond. And you can see here how nasty all this algae is. And even in here, all that algae there, and all the algae that's collected over here. And I want to make the switch now so that I can preserve this floating island with the plants, because that's mainly where the fish hide. So I know I'll at the very least use this filter box with the pump downstairs. Okay, update on the pond in the basement. This is what I'm working with so far. I have the air stone / filter going. I filled up almost to the top with pond water. I brought in the plant island. I brought in the 2 terracotta pots. I scrubbed all of the algae off of those. And then I went and I caught all of my fish. So 7 rosy red minnows and then my 2 koi. So you can see them here, they are trapped. Paul and Alex are still alive, and then I got all 7 of the rosy red minnows. And the pond outside is obviously a bit colder. We're gonna try this out, you know, trial and error. It's my first pond. See if we can do this. This here is Alex. Alex is going into the pond. And immediately goes away. I'm gonna try and get Paul here. I don't want to introduce all this algae. I filtered all the water with some fabric like batting. Look. I know I should get a net, but here's Paul. Paul is going in. And he goes into a terracotta. And then I will net out my 7, maybe. They're so quick. The minnows are so quick. There's 1 minnow. It was so hard to get them, especially with the pond being like so murky. There's 2 minnows. There's 3 minnows. There's 4 minnows. And 5 minnows. Rosy red minnows in an orange bucket. There is 6 minnows and 1 more. You're a quick one. You blend into the orange bucket. Maybe I can net this one. There we go. 7. All of the fish are in the pond. I saw another video where a guy was putting minnows and bait in his garage for the winter, and he was just having like a bucket with holes in it and having a pump shoot through a bunch of sponges and batting. And I think I'll just do that. So I'll use the pump from the pond, and I'll just have it go into the batting and the sponges. And then the air stone also has a sponge filter. So we'll just go from there. You know, it's all trial and error. So there were actually 9 in the water, not 7. I went out there and found 2 more. The problem is that once you stir the pond water around, it's so murky that I couldn't see I was able to catch one, a bigger one, and I put it in there already. It wasn't recording when I showed that one. So now I have to wait to get the last one. Wait for the water to settle and not be so murky. After 20 minutes, I finally got the last minnow. I started taking the water out of the pond, then there would be less murky water. Oh yeah, another 20 minutes of... Oh, I got it! There. So 2 koi and 9 minnows. So the morning after I set the pond up and put all the fish in, I came down to turn the overhead light on, and I found Paul, the brighter colored koi, on the floor, dead. So he had jumped out sometime overnight, and I didn't have a netting situation set up yet. So this is sort of what I DIY'd. I took some chicken wire and I folded it in half. And then I zip tied it together so that it would sit nicely. And so that fits on here. There's still some open areas, but I don't think it's enough for them to jump out. I mean, I'm guessing they have to have a little bit of momentum to sort of jump themselves out. And then I also attempted to feed some pellets today, but they're not eating. So tomorrow I'm going to go to the pet store and get 2 more koi. One to replace Paul and then another one. I sort of have it in my head that if I lose one, I want to replace it with 2 more. Because the other thing is, getting new koi or new fish means that I'm potentially risking adding parasites or disease to the fish I already have. And the weird thing is, like rosy red minnows are like feeder fish, so typically they won't live very long or they'll have parasites. And I still have the same 9 that I bought months ago. So fingers crossed when I get these 2 other fish that they're not going to wipe out all my other fish. But this is my first experience with pond fish. Growing up, my father had a bunch of tanks, angelfish and guppies and Oscars, things like that. I don't know if we ever had any goldfish, though. We did have, like, feeder goldfish for my turtle. So I went and bought 2 more koi at PetSmart. They've been in here for 2 hours to get used to the temperature. So I have sort of a yellowish one and then an orangish one. None of the koi there were very bright in their color. I got the 2 that were more bright. So I think the yellowish one here on top there is going to be Paul, and then the other one will be Tasha. And we're hoping that we're not going to introduce any parasites or disease. I did see some butterfly koi there, but I wasn't really impressed by the colors. There was also some larger koi, but with it being overwintering, I didn't want to do that either. So these are sort of medium size. And I'm definitely not going to introduce the water, the pet store water, into the tank here. Should be good though. One is definitely more yellow than the other one. So Tasha went in first, and this is Paul. And push this back. Make sure it sits nicely. And I'll give an update about whether they live or die.